In this video, we are going to do a movie review for the 2021 horror film The Black Phone. This was actually a pretty good watch. Alright, so right off the bat, I want to say that if you have not seen this yet, I highly recommend watching it. If you like movies that make you jump, this one's for you. This is one of those movies where it is kind of fun to watch someone else watch the movie when you know what's coming up next. The basic premise of this movie is about a 13-year-old boy named Finney who is kidnapped by a serial killer, known as the Grab Man. He ends up getting a phone call from his kidnapper's previous victim, who happens to be a girl, and she tells him about how she managed to escape, and she gives him clues and tips about how he should escape too. And all of the clues make sense, and it is very doable. And I think that a lot of people might try this if they were in the same situation. There's a little bit of blood, mostly towards the end of the movie, but it's not over the top. Also, another thing about this movie is that it doesn't deserve to be called a slasher, because most slasher movies, the person killing people just kills everyone without any motive. But in this movie, the Grab Man, which is the guy who kidnaps these children, he does have a reason for doing what he's doing. He has an actual motive, and it's revealed throughout the movie, and it makes sense the way he is, why he is. I also love the fact that they didn't go the supernatural route with this. A lot of times when it comes to horror movies, they have to add something supernatural in there for it to make sense. But in this case, it was just a very human problem, and I love it. Another great part of this movie is that the Grab Man's identity is kept secret throughout the entire movie. I was like, that's gonna be him, and I was totally wrong. Too funny. I had no idea who it was until it was revealed, and I was very surprised. I wasn't expecting it at all. So I would say that the acting was pretty good, and Mason Thames as Finn did an amazing job. Even though he is only 13, I feel like he portrayed that innocence very well. You know, he did very well for being only 13. And then also the girl who played the ghost, Catherine Deet, did a great job as well. She goes by Kitty Green these days. I think she changed her name after this, but she did a great job as well. Everyone did great. It was really fun to watch. In terms of the cinematography, I feel like it was done very well. All of the shots were steady. They weren't shaky. They knew exactly where to put the camera at. And I feel like the camera angles added to the suspense and everything. And then also the lighting was used very well. Sometimes they would use darkness to hide something scary, or they would shine a light on something so it would be more creepy. It was just really done well. I wasn't expecting much, but honestly, I feel like I got a lot more than I expected. Another thing that I did unexpect was that this movie actually has a runtime of about 1 hour and 52 minutes. Usually nowadays, horror movies tend to drag on forever. Like I feel like I've watched horror movies that were 2 hours long. But this movie, it moved at a nice pace. It stayed fast and steady. It didn't give the audience time to catch their breath. So I think that they did a really good job of keeping us engaged the whole entire time. And speaking of keeping us engaged, the plot itself was very well done. There were a bunch of plot twists in there that I was not expecting at all. And honestly, I feel like I'm gonna watch this again. I am gonna point out all the little Easter eggs and all the foreshadowing that I missed the first time. And I feel like if you watch it a second time, you'll catch a lot more things. But I think what made this movie really good was that there was a lot of foreshadowing, but it wasn't over the top. It was subtle enough where it didn't seem like it was foreshadowing, but it was. I love that. I love when they do that. And there were a couple jump scares in there, but they were done very well. They weren't cheap jump scares either. I also loved the setting of this movie. It took place in a small town, and I feel like this story would have been kind of lame. If it took place in a big city, it wouldn't have worked. But the small town setting really helped build the suspense. Also, I forgot to mention earlier, but the music in this movie was done very well. I feel like it added to the score. It didn't distract from it. I feel like sometimes in horror movies they play music that just doesn't fit the scene, and it's way too loud. But in this movie, it was perfect. It was used perfectly. If there's anything negative I have to say about this movie, it would be that the ending felt rushed. The last 5 minutes of this movie felt like they crammed it down to 1 minute. And I feel like they could have dragged it out a bit more, and explored the consequences of what happened. But I won't say it ruined the movie because I don't feel like it did. I think it was a great ending, and I did like the message behind it. I'm not going to say anything because it's a spoiler, but I will say that it was a bit predictable. But overall, I would say this movie was 9.2 out of 10. It was just a super good watch. And honestly, like I said earlier, I feel like I'm gonna watch this again. And I don't feel like I've watched many movies recently where I've been like, oh, I'm gonna watch that again. So that alone tells you how good this movie is. If you enjoyed this review, please leave a like. But anyways, thank you for watching. And as always, have a good night.